Hello everyone, my name is Andrew Hill. Today I'm going to be talking about the process of cellular respiration. So, for starters, what is cellular respiration? Cellular respiration is the process in which cells generate energy from glucose. It involves breaking down glucose molecules to produce ATP. It is a very important process and is essential for everyday life. So I also have a diagram that I'm going to show. So obviously we have glycolysis, and that has glucose and pyruvic acid, and so it produces 2 ATP, which then leads to the Krebs cycle, and the Krebs cycle produces CO2, which we release from our body. We'll get into the Krebs cycle later. It also produces chemical energy, which leads to the electron transport system. And the electron transport system is mainly where we get our ATP from. It produces 36. It also produces O2, and it produces H2O. So this is a very important process, and it produces many different things that we will get into throughout our presentation. So first, we want to talk about the aerobic versus anaerobic respiration system, and we're going to start with the aerobic. So we have glycolysis, which occurs in the cytoplasm. It breaks down glucose into 2 molecules of pyruvate and produces 2 ATP and NADH. And here's a little diagram right there. And then we have the Krebs cycle. It happens in the mitochondria, powerhouse of the cell. And pyruvate is further oxidized, producing NADH, FADH2, and ATP. And then we have the electron transport chain, which is located in the inner mitochondrial membrane. According to Dr. Albert, this process uses oxygen as the final electron acceptor to produce up to 34 ATP. As we said earlier, we showed the diagram, and these are the different stages of it and steps. And then we have anaerobic respiration and fermentation. So when oxygen is unavailable, as aerobic is used when there is oxygen, anaerobic is used when there's oxygen unavailable. Cells switch to fermentation, an anaerobic process. There's 2 types of fermentation: lactic acid and alcoholic fermentation. Lactic acid fermentation occurs in muscle cells, produces lactate and small amounts of ATP. Alcoholic fermentation, used by yeast, converts glucose into ethanol and CO2. Now, let's get into the differences between them. Anaerobic versus aerobic. Anaerobic, there's oxygen required for this process, as we mentioned earlier. There's ATP yielded, or like ATP produced, is 36 to 38, and the byproducts are CO2 and H2O. And for the aerobic, it's vice versa. There's not oxygen required for this process. ATP yielded is 2, and byproducts are lactic acid or ethanol. So, why is cellular respiration important? It provides ATP necessary for vital cellular functions. There are many different cellular functions that ATP is used for. It provides energy to each and every part of your body. So anytime you need food, or food is stored and it is used to create ATP, and that's very vital, and it uses glucose, and we'll get into more. And then obviously, as I mentioned, it powers activities like muscle contraction. So if you're lifting weights or you're doing any type of like active activities, you will be using ATP because you'll be using energy. There's active transport and biosynthesis. According to 2 biology scientists, Dr. Reese and Dr. Campbell, this process is integral to the energy cycle in ecosystems connecting producers and consumers. As we have talked about in class, there is a level of energy produced throughout each step of the ecosystem. So there's producers, primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers. A level of energy is passed down throughout each one, about 10%. And so having ATP is very essential because it is energy that is being passed throughout this process. Conclusion: cellular respiration is essential for life, converting energy stored in food into usable ATP or energy. And it involves intricate pathways and it has adaptations like fermentation, which allows survival in low oxygen environments, which is essential for life as oxygen is required for life. Thank you for listening to my speech and my presentation. Everyone have a good day.